My name is Jodi Connelly, and I teach for McElwain Elementary. I teach in a Title I school, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to grab the interest of your students in a Title I situation where maybe you don't have quite as many of the, let's say, pieces of equipment that were talked about earlier today that some of the other schools are more fortunate to have. So, for example, here's our good old PowerPoint. Well, you know, you do what you do because that's what you've got. So in talking about Leadville, which is definitely an historic treasure, Leadville is one of my favorite places to go hang out. There's so much to learn about Colorado history just by walking down Harrison Avenue. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Leadville and have spent some time there? Oh, good. Okay, so awesome. All right, so Leadville is like one of my favorite stomping grounds. It's a great place to be. This map is actually on the Library of Congress, and it is found in the Denver Public Library's digital archives. They've redone their digital archives, and they are awesome. Really easy to use, really easy to cite. The digital citation comes up for you now, which is amazing because you can just copy it and put it in there, so it works really great. But this one is an interactive map. So you can actually pull this up for your kids and show them what Leadville looked like. Oh, yay, I get the clicker. I don't know, can I? Okay. So, for those of you who don't know much about Leadville, which looks like everybody does, but I'll just tell you anyway. It's the highest incorporated city in the United States. And I'm not talking about marijuana, that's Boulder. I'm sorry. It's true. No, really. Leadville was a beautiful, forested, lovely, amazing place until they found gold. They found gold and they completely decimated the area, just so you know. So if you wanted to, this could become not only a discussion of the history of Colorado, but also some of the history of the ecology of Colorado. And you can start talking about how some of the things that we've done in our history has affected what's going on today. So you can see here, this is one, I love this picture. It's a picture of a little mining shack, and you can see Mount Elbert, which is where I camp under every summer, in the background. And I love the cloud layer across there. I just think that's pretty amazing. All right, so gold was discovered back then, and everybody rushed out there to mob California Gulch. And Abe Lee was like, well, okay, fine. Well, this is what you could see. Oh, wait a minute. Where's my, yeah, will you click those for me? Here's what California Gulch looked like between 1880 and 1885. And the area was still fairly forested. There was still some of the natural habitat still there, still looked pretty good. 5 years later, 6 years later, that's what it looked like. They cut down the trees for everything. Housing, wood for the fireplaces, wood for the kilns, wood for, you name it, they cut it down. They just absolutely decimated the entire area. They also used arsenic and all sorts of things to extract the gold and extract the other metals. So it became not only this source of gold, but also a toxic waste dump. Go ahead. Go ahead, and then I could do that one. All right, so this is Carbonate Hill, and this is in 1879. You can still see there are some trees across the top. It's still pretty. This is the following year. You can see most of it's gone. All the mining is here. So they did a lot to really mine out everything that was there. There were also a lot of really interesting people. Leadville was up as one of the 2 cities for the capital. As you know, Denver won. I think it's because they didn't want to hike all the way up there. But there were a lot of people who spent a lot of time in Leadville. Molly Brown, or actually Margaret Brown, Maggie Brown, as she was known to her family, spent a lot of time there with her husband, J.J. Brown, who was involved in the mining industry. They managed to actually keep their money, whereas the Tabors lost their money. So there's a lot of interesting things you could talk about in terms of the different people that came through here. Not just the ones that were rich, but also the ones that were somewhat colorful. So with Tabor being in silver and having all that money, he was able to open the Tabor Opera House on the encouragement of his lovely wife, Baby Doe. And so they had several different things that went on in there, and so there were lots of people that came, and you've got Jack Dempsey, who boxed there, barefisted boxing. You had Harry Houdini, his trapdoor is still on the stage, and you can still go see this. So even if you don't, or you can't take your students there, what you can do is you can go yourself, and you can make a virtual field trip for your students. And that's what this is really all about. It's about taking the time to not only take a look at what the history of it is, but to go there yourself and to bring back what is there now, because the town is still living. It's a living jewel. It's there for you to go and gather things from. And there are still things for you to be able to, you can go back to the Matchless Mine. There is the 12-mile Mineral Belt Trail. There are mine heads still intact. There's so much of an opportunity to go and look at the mining history as well as the history of the people that were there. There are stories of some of the less savory characters. Leadville had a very large brothel district. Probably not something you're going to teach your 3rd and 4th graders, but it did. State Street was one of its biggest areas of graft and corruption. And lots of lovely things went on there. Doc Holliday lost his life there, which is an interesting fact. Frank and Jesse James went through there. The Dalton Gang. Today, believe it or not, Harrison Avenue is still the same, although it's kind of interesting. There's another photograph, and I didn't put it up here. I probably should have. They actually changed the direction of the main drag in Leadville. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the photograph, but there's a photograph that they have of when they changed the main drag and they put Harrison through. And there's a cabin sitting right in the middle of Harrison Avenue. Smoke coming out of the chimney. It's just sitting there. So it's an interesting conversation about how cities are laid out with your children. It's another place that you can have a conversation about how do you plan something like this. Turned out that the man that lived in the cabin refused to let them tear it down. He wanted to still live there. So he stayed. When he passed away, they tore the cabin down and put Harrison through. Leadville looks pretty much the same today. It's a great place to go and visit. There are so many things to go and see. You can go into Twin Lakes and take the hike out to the Interlochen Resort and see the 6-stall outhouse that was specially built for the guests that stayed out there, each one with its own leather seat. Every guest had their own little key to the door. But just amazing, amazing pieces of history that you can still go and see today. And you can live that. And it's just an amazing thing to go back and think, wow, these people did this. They lived this. I can come here and take this back to my students. I can show, I can't take my kids here. There's no way, there's no money. I'm in a Title I school. But I can show them what it was like back then, and then I can show them what it's like now. And I can give them a field trip without actually going there. And I can show them this historic gem that's part of our state without having to leave the classroom. So, thank you.